So I'm taking on a bunch of Mega Man games again. And this time it's time to talk about Mega Man X5. Yay! I was not that excited about playing this. The last time I played through this, I played through it for my website, and I did a mini review over it. And I said that I was pleasantly surprised by the game. However, this time I really wasn't in the mood to play it. Well, it wasn't that I wasn't in the mood to play it, because I wanted to cover it. It was just that I wasn't really looking forward to playing it. I think I had zero expectations the first time through, and this time through I kind of knew what to expect because I had beaten it before. And I wasn't really excited about finally covering this game. It's got some pluses, it's got some minuses, it's got a lot of minuses, but we'll get into that. I've had this copy since the game came out. Like, I bought this brand new. And I never got past, like, maybe a single Maverick leader. Maybe I beat a Maverick leader or two. I don't remember. I know I didn't beat it, and I know I didn't get far at all, because this was all brand new to me when I played it a couple years ago. When I played it this time, I was a little more familiar with what was going on, but yeah, like, it just wasn't that compelling, and I'm pretty sure that it had something to do with the level designs of the first intro level and some of the graphics and presentation, and we'll get into that. In Mega Man X4, you had beautifully animated cutscenes and some really great graphics. In X5, you get still images with slow-moving text. The opening cutscene is just a bunch of still images laced together. I get that Capcom didn't really want to pour a ton of money into getting a third party to animate things for them again, especially when Mega Man just wasn't the cash cow it was before. Other Capcom titles were definitely doing much better for them, such as the Resident Evil series. From a business standpoint, it makes sense. From a fan standpoint, it's kinda garbage. That's all to say, this is speculation. I don't really know, like, what business practices went on within Capcom. It's just, kind of fun to discuss. I don't do the research that a lot of more respected YouTubers do, because I just like to talk about stuff. So just take whatever I say whenever it comes to history with video games with a little bit of a grain of salt, and this is one of those times. The graphics and sound are just a big step down. Sure, a lot of the same assets are used. Mega Man and Zero look the same, and there are even a few enemies here and there that were recycled from X4, but the animations on everything are so stiff compared to before. The Maverick bosses themselves look like 16-bit versions of 32-bit graphics with 8-bit animations, if that makes sense. I'm not kidding. Look at Slash Grizzly's jump here. It's just awful. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The background graphics and any new enemy or character sprites just look half-assed. My guess is that the time crunch was real on this game compared to previous games in the series, so there just wasn't enough time to polish everything. That being said, I really like the direction the team went with on the art direction. The character art is all super clean and polished. I love some of these boss designs too. Tidal Whale looks really cool, for instance. If you look at the concept art, it's all really good. It's just a shame that the in-game assets don't look nearly that great. And the music just doesn't hit the same as X4 either. There are some cool remixes of past Mega Man music, such as Bubble Crab's theme from X2 being used in Duff McWhalin, or Tidal Mayokin, or Tidal Whale. We'll get to that in a second. And even some throwback boss tunes from X1 and the original Mega Man. Listening to the soundtrack as I write this, some of these songs are pretty good actually. It's likely that I just don't think about this one as much in terms of music because I haven't played it nearly as much as previous games. Mega Man X5 is the first game in the series where you can switch between X and Zero in between levels. So instead of just playing through an entire game as one or the other character, you can actually do one level as X if his skill set works better, or Zero if you need a melee approach to enemies. This is probably the best part about Mega Man X5. I really wish this would have been implemented into X4 as well. At the start of the game, you choose if you want to start as X or Zero. Depending on who you choose, you'll get a special bonus for that character. Start with Zero and he can actually shoot his arm cannon, and it's really not that great. Start with X and you get his full armor from the last game, which is infinitely more useful. I definitely recommend starting with X. Normally I'd kind of gloss over the story, but it's actually kind of important for Mega Man X5's gameplay. There is a giant space colony called Eurasia that has begun a crash course with Earth, and the Maverick Hunter team has to stop it. X and Zero's colleagues are a little more fleshed out in this game, especially their dispatcher, Alia, who stops gameplay way too fucking often, calling your player character with tips and advice on how to proceed. If you've never played a Mega Man game before, this stuff might be useful, but if you played the dozen or so games that were released previous to this, it's all super obvious stuff and it's utterly annoying. It just stops the flow of gameplay for no reason other than to say, hey, watch out for this pit, or hey, watch out for these falling spike traps. It's a stupid addition that I suspect was added just to flesh out a new character and add depth to the storytelling in a game series that didn't really need it. To stop the falling of Eurasia, X and Zero need to collect items that are guarded by Reploids that are currently being infected with the Sigma virus and becoming Mavericks. Some of these guys aren't quite infected yet, but want to fight to the death before they lose complete control of themselves. That's kind of a neat story touch if I'm being honest, but the dialogue between characters before each boss fight is a little too long. You also only have 16 in-game hours to collect all the items needed to succeed. Each stage visit knocks 1 hour off the time limit, so if you want to collect all the armor pieces, sub-tanks, and heart tanks before the final boss stage, you have to plan things out. But you can always just beat all the Maverick leaders and come back to the stages after the story beats are complete to collect items without having to worry about the time limit. Infamously among Mega Man fans, this is the game where the localization team, for whatever reason, decided to change the name of the Maverick bosses to names of various band members of Guns N' Roses from over the years. Yeah, Guns N' Roses, the band that was big in the 80s. They don't even carry these names in the instruction manual. Like, why? This makes absolutely zero sense, and it's just weird. This wasn't a point in time where GNR was that big either. Like, 10 years too late. I don't get it. The current localization of the game on the X Collection corrected these names, so yeah, you get 3 names per Maverick leader. The Japanese one, the actual North American one from the current incarnation of X5, and the Guns N' Roses name. Boss Mavericks also increase in difficulty as you beat them, so the first boss will have less health than the last one you take on. It's kind of a neat way to increase the difficulty as the game progresses and you gain items and become stronger. Also, after each boss beaten, in addition to the boss weapon, you can kind of level up your characters as well, getting health or weapon energy increases. You'll also obtain special items that can increase your abilities, like Buster power upgrades or more defense for your armor. As the levels go on, you'll see more and more purple Sigma heads appear through the stage. The more times you let these hit you, the more your virus infection level increases, shown by the gauge in the bottom left corner. X can take damage from this if he gets too infected, but Zero actually becomes stronger, and this is explained in the story. I'll let you figure that out if you choose to play. Also, you can rescue innocent Reploids in most stages, and they act as health refills and 1-ups. It can be helpful to save these guys if you're low in health, but the lives are kind of useless, at least in normal mode as far as I can tell. Every checkpoint in the game you can continue to after a game over, so your lives are pretty arbitrary. I couldn't say if this is different in the extreme difficulty. Oh yeah, this game actually has 3 difficulty settings. As far as I know, it adjusts how much damage you take and the number of enemies in each stage, as well as adjusts the level of the Maverick bosses at the end of each stage. On Easy, all the Mavericks are level 1. On Extreme, I'm guessing they're either max level or higher than normal. I don't feel like playing through the game again just to figure that out. The gameplay itself, like the controls, are really solid. It feels as good as Mega Man X4, but you can duck now as well. Ducking can be pretty useful to dodge enemy fire and hit enemies that are lower to the ground. There are also a few new rope sections that X and Zero can jump onto to cross pits and such. But the level design is just okay. There are some levels that are literally straight shots through the level. There are a few stage gimmicks that try to make things a little more interesting, such as the Gravity and Dark Necrobat stage, but it's not super compelling. I'd say there are a few high points, such as Burning Dinorex's stage where you have to watch for the flowing lava and hide behind walls so you don't die. But there are also some really low points. Tidal Whale's stage is freaking awful. You are being chased by a giant submarine the entire time. It's an auto-scroller and an excruciatingly slow one at that. And because there are several items hidden in the level, you have to revisit it several times. It's bad. Also, there is a jet bike section that will kill you if you don't do everything exactly right. And what's worse, if you want the armor capsule at the end of the segment, you have to collect those blue energy balls throughout, and you can't miss any of them. It's also bad. Unfortunately, the Maverick weapons that you get for X are just kind of okay sometimes, I guess. A few of them are kind of random in their patterns, and others are just cumbersome to use. Not really worth it, honestly. Zero does get moves like he did in X4 for beating Mavericks, and you get the weapons for both characters. Zero's moves are way more useful than X's weapons, so there is that, I guess. Not a great balance, though. There's some neat throwbacks to classic Mega Man games, like the first level after the Mavericks is actually Quickman stage from Mega Man 2, complete with one-hit death lasers. But you have a time freeze weapon that helps you out here, so that's cool. And a level that reuses the same layout from Sigma Castle Level 1 in Mega Man X1, with a boss fight against a new Ranga Banga, the face boss from the same game. Also, there are those music throwbacks I mentioned earlier, and the whole story revolves around, spoiler alert, the fact that Dr. Wily created Zero. Wily doesn't actually appear here, but you do get a glimpse of his giant W insignia, and Sigma implies that Wily somehow created his final form for him at the end. I suspect that this was an effort by the team to tie up the X and Classic Series storylines. The throwbacks to the Classic Series was a way to loop it all back. According to his comments in the official complete works, Inafune wasn't really that involved in this game, and he told his team to wrap up the series with X5. Obviously that didn't happen, but that's why the game's ending has a sense of finality to it. Just sucks that they didn't try to go out with a bang instead of deciding to go out with a "we're out of interest and money in the series, so let's just tie it up," kind of like some popular TV shows that we all know and love and hate the final seasons of. Game of Thrones, Lost, Battlestar Galactica, yeah. Mega Man X5 has a lot of great ideas, and it could have been really, really cool had the team spent more time refining things. Had they refined the graphics and animation so it was on par as the last game, it would have looked amazing. Had they refined the level design and the new gameplay concepts, the game could have played amazing. Had they put the time into presentation of the game and included some animated cutscenes and voice acting, it could have been amazing. But instead, the whole experience comes off as half-baked. And put up against the first 4 X games, it's kind of not good. Is it a decent action game? Sure, it's not an unplayable mess, but it certainly isn't anywhere near the quality of any of the games that came before it. Okay, it's better than Rockman and Forte. Yeah, I'll give it that distinction. It's better than Rockman and Forte. So unless you're a massive Mega Man X fan, and I mean Mega Man X, not Mega Man proper, or, you know, the whole series in general, I would say skip this one. I can't say I hated the experience, but it was disappointing and frustrating. This game could have been so much more, it could have been awesome, but it just ended up feeling rushed and kind of unpolished and incomplete. So unless you really want to see how the series was supposed to end, which, yeah, this was supposed to be the last game in the Mega Man X series, I just skip it. I just go ahead and skip it because it's just disappointing. But that's all I got. I want to cover Mega Man X6, and it's not much better than this. It's actually much worse. We might get to it eventually. I would like to do X7 and X8 as well. X7's kind of a mess. X8's not bad. But we may or may not get to those eventually. But yeah, that's all I got. I appreciate everybody watching. Thanks, guys. Later.